Hey guys, I am Bethany Quinn, and this is Quintersectional Conversations. Today, I am here with Rebecca Rose Vassy, aka Diva Darling, and we're going to talk about the awesome things that she does here in the DC entertainment scene, and other things too. So, hi, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad that Colleen connected us because I have heard such awesome things. So, you run Smut Slam.
Yes, Smut Slam DC specifically.
Smut Slam DC, and I have heard such awesome things about that. So why don't let's just dive right in. Tell us about Smut Slam.
So Smut Slam DC is the first franchise of Smut Slam International, which has grown in the last 5 years to be, I hope I get it right this time. I believe it's 17 cities in 12 countries on 4 continents around the world. And it was founded by an amazing woman. Her name is Cameron Moore. She is a former sex worker. She is an activist and educator. She's an independent artist. And I met her because she was touring. She spends a lot of her time touring around her one-woman shows, and she was looking for a producer for her DC stop for one of her shows. And I kind of fell into it. We met at a convention and got to talking, and we finished our conversation. I was like, I think I'm producing her show. And so in the course, she was going to be there for like a week doing it, and she said, when I do these things in different cities, I have this other thing called Smut Slam that I do that just kind of builds some audience, and it's a fun thing, and it's storytelling about sex. And I was like, color me intrigued. Let's see if we can make that happen. So we pulled it together in like a week.
Wow.
Yeah. And, 'cause it was very last minute, and we probably had like maybe a dozen people there. It was very intimate, but it was just an amazing experience. And so afterwards, and I'll get into the format of the show, but afterwards, I went up to her, and one of my friends who, in the burlesque scene, who had been one of the judges for the show, we both independently went up to her and were like, is there any way we can keep doing this even while you're not in town? And she was like, funny you should mention, I've been thinking about franchising it out. So the next day, we sat down for 3 hours in a diner and hashed out the whole structure, and Smut Slam DC was born. And it probably was within a year maybe that it had taken off and was already, in probably close to 10 cities. And it's just been growing and growing since then.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it's really been incredible. And so now this is currently my 5th year doing it. My producing partner, Mindy Mimosa, had stepped down at the end of the year, but is still a great, fan of the show. So, I went into this year going all right, I'm going to solo produce, and we're going to see what happens with that. And it's going to be fun. And then, I did my February show, and then, we canceled everything live because of coronavirus. So, but Cameron and I worked together to create an online format. So she's doing Smut Slam Europe online every week for different countries. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm sticking to my monthly schedule. So what the show is it's a monthly show. Normally it would take place in a bar, and it is first person, real life, open mic storytelling about sex. And so the audience is the show, and we have people sign up, and we pull names at random for people to come up, and we have a theme. So people will generally tell stories around a theme, and then we have a panel of local celebrity judges, which can be anything from I've had a lot of my burlesque colleagues do it. We've had theater people and artists and sex educators. We've had the DC Department of Health. We've had HIPS and Planned Parenthood, and all these different organizations jumping in, and it's been a great opportunity for us to partner with them and help promote them and give people an opportunity to pitch whatever they're doing. And they pick 3 winners, and it's all in good fun, but you know what, they get sex toys for it. And then we have something, is it okay to curse on this?
It is so encouraged. I mean,
all right, good. It has another feature called the Fuck Bucket.
Nice.
And the fuck bucket is where people can write down anonymous questions and confessions and put them in a physical bucket, and then I will read them in between tellers.
Nice.
And it's a good way for people to participate if they're like, they don't have a big story or they're feeling a little shy or like whatever. And it's a really cool way for me to do like off the cuff, like sex education from the stage. Because we just get like the full range of questions. And we actually just completed an Indiegogo for the very first ever Smut Slam International Fuck Bucket book. So we're going to be doing like,
that's so fantastic. It's
so
like
excited.
It's like an R-rated Post Secret.
Right, exactly. It's very much Post Secret. So yeah, we're taking some of the best, well, I shouldn't say best, some of our favorite confessions from all over the world. We're commissioning original erotic art for it. We're going to have me and Cameron, a couple of the hosts, we're going to pull some of the questions that we think are, you know, really good and write out answers for them. So it's like this whole thing. And we did a really cool Indiegogo where you could get everything from like, you know, original smut to original art to like an erotic tarot reading or a workshop, you know, like whatever. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. Like that's been that project has been like a dream of mine for a long time. So, you know, even though like I so miss doing my live show every month because it's such a great community.
Yeah.
It's so like we have a huge queer, trans, people of color, like it's a very diverse audience and very, very supportive and welcoming. And I miss seeing everybody in person so much, but I'm so glad that we jumped right in and created an online format so we could keep it going. Because I'm hearing from audience members that like this is something that like, off of things really like keeps them feeling connected to, you know, other people and just a moment of joy in, you know, it's been a really hard time.
Definitely.
So yeah, that's the long short version of everything.
No, that's awesome. Sorry, I totally realized that I forgot to mention what I'm actually cooking. It's a little scary. No, so this is part one of a longer series that I'm going to be doing. In my head, I call it fixed potato salad, but that's probably problematic. So no, but it's Bethany's potato salad. So it is, instead of the traditional potato salad, I use aioli instead of mayonnaise. I put bacon in, and then I do a beer braised mushroom that goes into it. So
wow,
pretty yummy.
You know, that sounds like a potato salad I would actually eat because I hate mayonnaise.
Exactly.
So normally I'm like,
So hopefully it'll be good, and hopefully I won't be the only one eating it. But yes, so I am starting with the bacon. There's like so much fat in this that I may like make ginger snaps or something. But anyway, so that's what's happening here. So continue. So you're doing this international Smut Slam thing. What is, wait, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say that the stories are they confidential? Are they not supposed to leave the space, or?
Yeah, we don't allow photography or videography. And we tell everybody, like, if you heard it here, if it's not your story, it's not your story to tell.
Then I won't tell you what your favorite story is from somebody else. But is there a story that you would feel comfortable sharing that you have shared, or one of your favorite stories?
Oh, God, let me think. Well, I won't go into the whole thing because it's like, I mean, unless you really want me to, like, I can do like a whole 5-minute story if you want, but I can also give you the summary version. But we have a lot of interest in butt sex at Smut Slam. Like everybody's either curious or they're a fan or they're like weirded out, but they want to know more, like, you know, whatever it is.
Sure.
So, and we also, part of the reason this is one of my favorites is that every year our September show ends up falling around International Talk Like a Pirate Day. So we do a pirate themed show. And it's always like some stupid, like, you know, pun and like, you know, it's like Quest for the Booty Call or like whatever, you know, things like that. And so this particular story that I've told at that one involved the first time that I actually successfully had sex.
Sure.
Which was at a night that I had gone to a kink club and my partner was away doing something, and I was like, you know what, I'm bored, gonna go to the club. And I'm normally a top, and for whatever reason that night I just ended up like bottoming to a whole bunch of different like sensation play, and I was really into it. And so the guy I was playing with was like, hey, like my, you know, I guess she was his ex-girlfriend, but they were still sleeping together, whatever the deal was. He was like, we're gonna head home, like we're not far from here, do you want to come home with us? And I was like, not usually what I do, but I'm feeling adventurous tonight. So we went back to their place, and she decided that she was tired and she was going to tap out. She's like, you guys have fun, do whatever. And I suddenly realized that he was like, let's like actually go to bed. And I was like, yeah, I got my period. And I have my period right now. And I was not prepared for this. And I really don't like riding the red wave. So like I'm totally into this, but like, what are we, you know, how do we work this? So he goes down to the corner store to get me tampons, and which I thought was very gentlemanly.
Sure.
And then he basically like, so basically like, well, we could do butt stuff. And I was like, I was so, like, I don't know, I just had something to prove that.
Yeah.
Because I never managed to before. I'd always been like, no, too much, I can't do it, you know. And I was just like, I didn't want to tell this guy like that I was nervous about doing it. I was like inside, I'm like, no, I'm gonna do this. So so we go to his bedroom, and like we're getting started, and I'm, you know, nervous, and he's very good, like he knows what he's doing. But then the reason this is one of my favorite stories is that the way I describe it is I went through the 5 stages of first time butt sex. Which is, oh God, now I'm gonna, basically it's like the 5 stages of grief.
Yeah.
Okay. Cause it's like anger, and you're like, what is this? It's too big. And then like depression, you're like, oh, I'm never gonna do this. And then like finally you get to acceptance, and you're just like, whoa, and the heavens open up and everything is amazing. And so yeah, like I've completely forgotten the order of that. But yeah, and the part of the reason that I told it for the pirate show was that the guy also had a parrot who like free flew around the room and like didn't bother us or whatever. But I'm like, I had a booty call, literal booty call, and he had a parrot, and like there you go. And so yeah, and then the next day I got up and we all watched SpongeBob SquarePants and had cereal, and then I went home, and I was very proud of myself. So yeah, you are a little bit frozen on my screen right now.
Hilarious. That is fantastic.
I hope you can still hear me. I hope you can still hear me.
That's, yeah, I have a Chromebook is probably the problem. I like to blame my internet, but it's probably the Chromebook, which just isn't designed with.
Okay, I can hear you better now.
I can still hear you. Yeah. Let's pop up the chat. Right, so okay, so you mentioned burlesque. You also do burlesque. How did you get into burlesque?
So I had I don't really remember where I first heard about it. Like, as soon as I did, I was like, ooh, sequins, feathers, long gloves. Like, this is totally my aesthetic. And I had a friend who was with the DC Girly show, which I know you're familiar with because you had Helene on the show. And so this friend at the time, this was years and years ago, and she like telling me about performing with them, and she was like, oh, it's great, and I get to do nerdy stuff. I have a Harry Potter act, other act, and I was like, and she was like kind of short, like real curvy, like whatever, and I was just like seriously, like you can get up on stage and like take your clothes off and like people are cheering for you.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, absolutely. And I was like, I'm really kind of into this idea.
Yeah.
Because I'd always like had this secret fantasy of like, I want to like be a stripper. And because I'm a real exhibitionist. And so she was like, hey, just like come to one of our meetings. Like they'll like take you in, they'll put you on stage. I was like, and my background is in theater. So I was like, no way. It is not that easy. I will have to audition for years and nobody will let me on stage and, you know, all this kind of thing. She was like, no, trust me, it's so easy. And I like took the class and I loved it. And then I was like, but I still didn't believe that it would be that easy. I could just show up and they would like let me do stuff. And so it probably took me a good like 6 years or so. And then I think it was like when Living Social was still a big thing, and they like had a headquarters in downtown DC.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the classes they had there was called Bourbon and Burlesque. And basically you drank a shitload of bourbon and learned burlesque. And it was being run by people from the Girly Show. And I was like, hey, I know them. Like, I've been on their mailing list for a million years and I've never had the guts to show up. So I went there and I go into this room and it's like 40, like thin 20-something chicks and me. And I have like a rose in my hair and like an off-the-shoulder shirt and pedal pushers and like I have this whole like retro pinup look on, and I'm like, oh god, like, and I'm like the only curvy chick in the room. Like, I don't know what I got myself into. And so we do the class, and it turns out great. And like because I had a dance background and a theater background, like there was one point at which the instructor was like, I'm gonna break you into groups and give you some time and just kind of come up with some choreography together on the fly. And everybody else in my group was like, oh my God, what do we do? Like, I don't know how to do this. And I was like, I got this. Yeah. And like, so we came up and they like made me be in front and like, you know, this whole thing. And it was so affirming. Like this whole room full of women was like, we were screaming for each other and we were cheering and like, and like afterwards, like after my group went, like somebody was like, oh my God, it was like, you know, like watching like a rock star with their backup singers. And I was like, oh, I feel so good. And so I went up to the instructor afterward. And I was like, I just want you to know that like fully like 3/4 of the reason I came to class today is because I wanted to like talk to you about getting involved with the Girly Show. And she's like, well, I'm really glad you said that because I was basically going to recruit you whether you liked it or not. So, like, yeah, within like a month or so, I had been like brought into the ranks of the Girly Show. And I was only with them for like a year. And I did marketing for them, and you know, I was on the board. Like I got real immersed real quickly. But the thing that was really great about that experience was that we had a regular monthly show, and it was real easy. If you were a committed performer, like you could perform almost every month, and I was very committed. So I was basically going through this like year-long boot camp where like sometimes in the space of just a couple weeks, I was like taking an act from my initial concept all the way through to like putting it on stage in front of people. And like just the discipline that taught me was so incredibly valuable, because a lot of people get involved in burlesque and like it takes them months to develop an act and you know whatever, and like that's just kind of foreign because I'm like, you know, like get it up and like I can you know, spice up the costume later. But so yeah, and once I left the troupe, like I struck out solo and have been doing that for probably about like 5 or 6 years now. Yeah, so I've gotten to do a lot of really cool shows. I've taken a hiatus because some people have tried to do burlesque shows online since everything shut down, but like kind of right away, I was like, you know what, it's just not the same without the live audience and being on stage, and like I don't have a great like space to, you know, set up for performance. So I was like, you know what, like this is gonna be like, I'll do my Smut Slam show and I'll write and I'll do, you know, like stuff that is easier to do in quarantine, and then I'll take the burlesque stuff, you know, back out to the world when we can all get together again. So yeah.
Yeah. I write about some of those shows, and they're great, but it does, I feel like being live in person sometimes is what separates it from feeling like you're watching porn online, like a real experience of, you know, I work time for you freeze too, and I'm probably frozen now too. Okay. You froze right as I had said, like, it's feels like watching porn online, and I was like, oh God, did I say something wrong? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, me and my delicate sensibilities. I've got the vapors.
Awesome. So, what is your favorite act that you have done, and what is your favorite act that you have seen?
I would have to say I'll start with the favorite act that I've seen. And it's a little tough because I've seen some really pretty amazing acts, but I think
like top 2 or 3. I'm totally open to that. I love hearing about burlesque and watching burlesque.
Yeah. So definitely the first one that jumps out at me, my friend Sheree Sweetbottom, before I knew her very well, I went to a Lord of the Rings burlesque show. Yeah. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan.
That's fantastic.
She does this unbelievable act where she starts out as Smeagol, finding the ring and like all that kind of stuff, and her striptease turns her into Gollum, and she's like head to toe. Like, she's in the suit, she's got the bald wig, she's got the ears, she's got the teeth, like the whole deal. And physicality is just so unbelievable. So it's not a traditional striptease in that, like, you know, she's still got a full bodysuit on, so it's not in muscles or pasties or anything like that. But it was just so unbelievable. Yeah, and like, I'm trying to think. My friend JT Dandridge, who has come back to the DC area, so I'm real excited about that. I hope that she's gonna join the scene again when there is a scene to join. She is a Black woman, and she does an act that is basically, it's like cheeky and sassy, but it's also real confrontational about racism. Like, she comes out and she's like serving people pancakes and doing this like Aunt Jemima like kind of thing, and then she's like stripping down and like becomes like Black Panther, and she's like sitting in a chair like grabbing her tit and just like, kind of like defiantly like, yeah, fuck you, you know, kind of thing. And I can't remember the music that it's to, but it's just the whole thing is so defiant. So like, that's really incredible. And there's another performer of color, Nona Narcisse, who has moved to New Orleans, and she's a classic performer. Like, she does, you know, like all the beautiful costumes and the feathers and the sequins and the, you know, glamour and all that kind of stuff. And normally I actually prefer like the neo-burlesque acts that are weird and goofy and performance art and, you know, that kind of thing. But in her case, like, she's such a great dancer. She's so elegant. Like, her costumes are astonishing. Like, it's, you know how, like, you have a visual crush on somebody sometimes? Like, you just want to look at them forever. And like, I could just watch her dance like till the end of none. And yeah, like, good on New Orleans for getting her, but like, that was a loss to the DC scene when she moved away. So yeah, like, oh God, there's so many I could probably think of. There's so many incredible performers that I've seen. But yeah, so let's see. A couple of my favorite acts of my own. Well, the one that I think gets, like, hands down gets booked the most, and is everybody's favorite, and I love doing it because it was a concept that like kind of came to me all at once and just came together perfectly. Call it Your Evil Hand, and I perform it to Pink's You in Your Hand. Nice. And it's basically a tribute act to Evil Dead 2 with Bruce Campbell. So it's basically the scene where Bruce Campbell's hand gets and tries to kill him, and he has to like cut it off, and then he replaces it with a chainsaw. And I'm a big fan of like the horror movies and stuff like that, and I love that. It's because the scene is so ridiculous. He literally does this pratfall fight with his own hand. So I do this act where I come out and I'm like reading from the Necronomicon Sex Mortis, and you know, I have like audio from the movie, like reading the stuff aloud like whatever. And so then my hand gets possessed, but it gets possessed by a sex demon that's trying to have sex with me. And at first, like, I'm really like super into it, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm like starting to get undressed, we're getting sexy, and then my hand indicates like that it wants to fist me, and I'm like, no, that's too far. And so we get into like a slap fight about it, and then it turns into this huge thing, and like my evil hand like whips out a machete, and I'm like wrestling the machete away. So then I chop off my own hand and replace it with basically a Hitachi. And I put a Hitachi magic wand, a vibrator.
Yeah, that's what I.
So like I have like a cuff that like goes over my hand, and then it has the Hitachi, and I attached like a cord, so it's like the chainsaw, because I have the chainsaw sound effect at the end. So it's like groovy.
Nice. That is amazing.
So like that's like the extreme of my my absolute ridiculousness. And then like on the other end, one of my other favorite acts I've only gotten to do a couple of times, and really is kind of tough to do now because the show's over, but it was for an Orange is the New Black show, which I was a huge fan of, so I was really excited to be doing that. And I chose to do a tribute act to a character in it called Miss Rosa. And Miss Rosa is an older woman. She's kind of heavy set. She is dying of cancer. And so there's an episode in the course of Orange is the New Black where it goes into her background and shows like her whole story. And like back in like the 70s or 80s or whatever, she had been like a bank heist chick with like a couple of guys, and she was like super, yeah, she was young, beautiful, long hair, like she like was turned on by the smell of money, like she got like this like adrenaline high from ripping off. It's like, you know, it was like this whole like danger thing. So the whole course of the episode is like her like kind of feeling very like, you know, bit like nostalgic and sort of bittersweet about, you know, who she's become, and the fact that she's anticipating having this like slow death, and she always kind of thought she would go down in flames, and it like sort of put her to reclaim herself and like kind of once more become her younger self and like go out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah.
And so the act that I did, I started out as her in the cancer ward, and like I had an IV stand, you know, like the whole, basically like supposed to look like a chemo setup. I had a chemo cap on, like I've got a hospital gown, like it's the most unglamorous outfit ever.
Right.
Like I've got hospital noises in the background, and then the premise is that somebody has like left a leather jacket on the seat next to me, and I'm like, because, you know, I'm still a thief, like, so it's like feeling around in the pocket and find money, and like I smell it, and it like reminds me of who I used to be. And so, and then I get up and basically I start doing a strip out of all the hospital stuff, and then I do a reverse strip into an outfit that is basically like what young Miss Rosa would have worn, and like rip out the IV, and like basically like it's all about like reclaim who she feels like she is on the inside. And then the last thing I do is pull off the chemo cap and let down this like long dark wig that looks like her hair, and just toss the chemo cap onto the IV stand and walk off. And like I've got like a gun in my, you know, waistband and whatever. And it's to Amy Winehouse's You Know I'm No Good. And so I do, and the thing that I love about it, because at the time that I created it, one of my good friends was undergoing radiation therapy for cancer, one of my friends in the burlesque scene, and my housemate was dying of pancreatic cancer. And like, and actually I think I created it not long after he died. And he'd been a good friend for many years. And one of the things that I thought about that I never felt like could ask him, but I wondered, because he'd always been like a really like vibrant, really sexual person, like had a great relationship with his girlfriend, like whatever. And I always kind of wondered, like, did he think about that when he really started to waste away and couldn't do any of that stuff? And like, like didn't matter anymore? Did he feel like he was being seen as his illness and not, you know, as a human being anymore? And I started thinking about the fact that, like, when people are older, like when they are bigger, when they're sick, like, you know, we tend to look at them as like these, you know, quote unquote imperfect bodies, and not as people who have personalities and desires and, you know, and have, you know, sexual interests and things like that. And I thought, like, this act was my kind of like, hey, I want you to kind of confront the fact that when you look at somebody, you know, who is, you're feeling pity for, like, think about the fact that maybe they are seeing themselves in a whole different way side. And so I'd come out on stage, and it's like this very, like I said, it's this very unglamorous looking thing, and the audience would be, burlesque audiences are generally like loud and rowdy, whatever. Audience would be dead silent, and they don't know what to do with it. You know, they're just sitting there like, is it okay to make noise for this? Like, is it like inappropriate? I don't know how to behave. And in my head, I'm always going like, all right, just hang on. We're going to go on a little journey. It's going to be fine. And about the point that I start, like when I'm doing the striptease and they see like I have bright red underwear on underneath, and then I start doing the reverse and putting other clothes on, and they're like, oh wait, I think I see where this is going. And then they like get really, really excited about it. And by the time I'm done with it, like they're just screaming and like, you know, just totally getting it, totally on board. And like, I love doing that act so much, because it really is, it's challenging. It's not just I'm getting up on stage and being pretty and taking off my clothes for your amusement. Like, it's like making you think about shit and making you uncomfortable. And I love making people uncomfortable when I'm on stage. So.
That's awesome. That is really great. Definitely, yes, people are funny. Let's see. What was the other? What am I forgetting? Oh, so you also run the blog Lotus Blooms.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, Lotus Blooms is a wonderful, it's woman-owned, it is education-based, it's in a sex store, but really we call it an adult boutique because it's very elegant and beautiful and welcoming. And it's in Old Town Alexandria on King Street, like in that kind of boutique strip.
Yeah.
And it's just a wonderful, wonderful place. And it's very queer inclusive. It's very body positive. And I started working with them, oh gosh, I want to say maybe 4 years ago now, something like that. And I really pursued, you know, wanting to work there. I wanted to do marketing for them.
Okay.
And because I was like, the first time I set foot in that store, I was like, I want people to know about this. Like, I want to sell this store. Yeah. And so I started doing marketing stuff, also some events. I taught a lot of workshops there. And we'd been talking so from the time that I started about wanting to do blogging. And I think when I started, they'd kind of done a little bit of a blog on, we have a Shopify site. So like Shopify sort of has the ability to put up a blog, and there were a few posts, and like it just, you know, they hadn't done a whole lot with it yet. I kind of stagnated for a little bit. I was like, I really, really want to create a blog. And so finally we got to the point where I had the kind of time and bandwidth to do that. And so I ended up building a whole site that, you know, off of the main URL. It's blog.lotusblooms.com if you want to go read my stuff. And so we post roughly once a week on all kinds of, you know, sex education, sex positivity, toy reviews, like explaining different types of toys, like all different kinds of things. A lot of stuff about like queer sexuality and, you know, things like that. And so we like really try to, you know, cover a range of topics. I do a lot of writing for the blog. Sometimes the other staff does as well, and I generally, like, if they're writing, then I'll like edit and do the layout and do that kind of thing. So, so it's really kind of been my baby. And past year, I submitted it to Kinkly.com, and they chose it to be included in their list of top 100 sex blogging superheroes. So I was like, all right, putting that badge right on my blog there. So yeah.
That's so fantastic. Nice. That is really, really cool. So what, so let's see. So I've heard, actually, it's funny. So I realized just as you were talking that I actually do know Allie, because I was a big fan of Bare Naked Comedy when she did it.
Yes, I did Bare Naked Comedy.
Because her stage, right. And it was this amazing show, and it still makes me sad that it's not, because she would go and she would do, you know, like a burlesque act where she would strip down to pasties, and then she would do the opening comedy routine, like just standing there like in pasties, just like completely, like it was the most baller thing I've ever seen in my life. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think she was the one who had told me about Lotus Blooms, and that was where she got, you know, her courses and things. But so when picking out a corset, what is some advice that you have for people?
Picking out a corset, did you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so
these guys go to Lotus Blooms.
Yes, because Lotus Blooms has a beautiful array of corsets and other lingerie, but like, yeah, it's one of the few places where you can go in person locally, maybe one of the only places locally to get an affordable, like, high quality corset. So definitely, well, so one of the important things to know before shopping for a corset is to know what quality corset looks like. So generally you want steel spiral boning. Steel boning is also good, but it tends to be a bit more rigid. So like spiral boning is a little bit more, like, gives like still really good support, but a little bit more flexibility, so it's more comfortable to wear for longer periods of time. You want stuff like, you want like high quality laces that are like kind of heavy, like basically they should feel like about the weight of like a shoelace, and not like those cheap ribbons that you get on, you know, corsets you order off like eBay or like whatever. The fastenings down the front, like either like metal clasps, or like a really strong zipper, or like actual busks, like, which, you know, hard to describe if you've never seen them, but, you know, basically, like, if you see a cheap corset, it's probably going to have like those tiny little hooks, or like a cheap plastic zipper. So like, that's definitely something to avoid. So, and ideally, like, a corset that has lining is really good, because you can have a beautiful fabric on the outside and then like a cotton layer on the inside, which is good because it's kind of hard to clean a corset. So you don't want to like be sweating through your beautiful brocade. And like, one of the important things is whether you want an overbust, which will come up through about here, or an underbust, which, as you know, usually kind of curves like this. I personally like underbust because I have a smaller bust line, and so corsets that fit me around the waist and hips often are going to be too big in the top. So like, those are just more comfortable for me. There's also like the length of the corset matters, because like some of them are like, will come kind of above your hips, and like really sit like, just like they'll finish like just around the waist, and some will come down kind of onto your hips. So again, like your body shape will, and the length of your torso will kind of determine how comfortable you are with that. And then like the neckline also, like, because if you get like a straight cut across, like that might be great if you have, you know, smaller bust, because you're just kind of all, you know, compact. And if you have a bigger bust, like, you might get like the shelf effect, and some people like that, some people don't. So, but you can get like kind of like a sweetheart cut, or you know, sometimes you'll get like kind of a deep plunge, you know, like things like that. So it's definitely best if you can shop in person to do that. Let the salespeople fit you, let them help you, because fitting a corset is different than fitting other clothes. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna have a measurement that is like your measurement for your corset is gonna be something anywhere from like 4 to 10 inches smaller than your actual waist measurement.
Sure.
And they'll help you, like, you know, figure out your torso length and, you know, the other measurements that are, you know, and they can recommend styles that are going to fit those kind of things. So yeah, definitely like the help of somebody who knows corsets is invaluable, because then they can also show you how to lace it, how to break it in, how to unlace yourself, like all that kind of valuable stuff.
I should go there. I totally have corsets and I have no idea how to do any of that.
Absolutely.
I'm
Yeah.
like, is someone going to be here when I'm getting ready? Yes? Okay,
Yeah,
I
right.
do this then.
Yep. And in the meantime, on the blog, we do have, you can search corset on the blog, and we do have like 4 posts about, you know, choosing and wearing and breaking in and all that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
On corsets.
Very cool. Well, this has been super fun, and we still have a bunch of other things that we had talked about talking about, but we're coming to the end of the hour, so I think you're just going to have to come on the show again, and we're going to
Darn.
and then once the world reopens, I'll have to have you over for dinner sometime.
Yeah, definitely.
So
can I give a quick plug for my upcoming show?
I was going to say, yes, give a plug for the show. I also thought you have the fantasy series that you're also doing.
Yes.
I was going to say, let's talk about those things, and then, yeah.
Okay, cool. So my real quick plug for Smut Slam DC. Easiest thing to do if you're interested is to go to dc.smutslam.com, because all the information is there. It's the easiest thing to remember. Or Smut Slam DC on Facebook is also good. So we have a show coming up on June 18th, 8 o'clock, and it's going to be online. And every June, our theme is Queer Pride. And that's still going to be the case. And we always center queer voices and, you know, try to make sure that queer people who sign up to tell stories get to do that first. But because of everything that's going on, want to use my platforms for whatever good I can. I've altered the theme to be Queer Pride for Black Lives. So it's going to be fully in support of the protests and the fight for racial justice that's going on. And so any Black guests of the show are invited to come for free. There's ticket type just for that. And everybody else it's pay what you can. So like we're accommodating people's hardship. It's ASL interpreted. And once I have paid my show staff, which includes the ASL interpreters, what would normally be my cut, I'm donating to Black Lives Matter, HIPS, which is a fabulous organization in DC, and probably one other organization that I'm going to, Black-led organization I'm going to kind of pick based on like what seems like the most immediate need, you know, after we get through the show on the 18th. So yeah, so I really want to plug that because we sell out the show every month anyway, but I really, really want people to turn out for that and, you know, do what we can to support our Black community.
Absolutely. Yeah. And let's, once I post this, let's get some links up there.
Yeah, definitely.
And feel free to, you know, post it on the show's page and that kind of stuff after the fact.
Awesome.
Just closer to the date. Yeah, that's awesome. That is really great. So did you want to talk a little bit about your authorpreneur thing?
Yeah, I'll give like a tiny little plug for that. So I am self-employed. I am a writer. I've been doing a lot of freelance work, but I am also a playwright and a fiction writer. And so I'm kind of striking out on a new path, which has been termed by other people authorpreneur, which is basically like you're a self-published author, but you're basically running a business. And so I'm getting ready to launch my very first urban fantasy series. It's called the Mythfit with Mysteries. And the first book, Metamorphosis, is going to be coming out probably within the next month. I'm kind of doing the final touches on preparing it for publication. And I'm just super excited about it, super happy about it. I think if you like the kind of series like Cookie Stackhouse, like the True Blood stuff, or Anita Blake, or Harry Dresden, or like Charles DeLint, like any of that kind of stuff, like I think you're really gonna be into the books that I have. It's all about someone who basically like lost everything in an accident and occult powers and found herself in service to a deity who's very demanding. And so she does a lot of helping people who don't have other ways to be helped. And yeah, and I'm just really in love with it. So if you want to follow me, Diva Darling, on Facebook, again, I'll throw links your way. Currently, like, rebuilding my website, so hopefully I'll have a good link for that by the time this goes out.
Totally.
But yeah, so that's going to be coming out real soon, so I'm very excited about that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Anything else you want to talk about before we hop off?
I think I've babbled enough for one day.
Not babbling, it was fantastic. It was
awesome.
Highly amusing. I am very excited to check out Smut Slam on June 18th. And yeah, oh, and I made bacon in the oven, and I made an aioli sauce. And so all of that is going to go with potato salad. So
I'm so
it's very
taking
good.
you up on that dinner offer when we're out of quarantine.
Definitely.
I'm such a foodie too. What's that?
Yeah, where are you in the city?
I'm actually out in Germantown.
Okay. Oh wow. Yeah.
But I'm very mobile. I drive all the time, and I love to drive. So.
Okay. Good stuff. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to meeting you in person, and
Yeah,
I will. Yeah, and thanks so much for the great work you're doing. And yes, you seem awesome. I'm very excited.
Thanks so much for having me.
And by the way, speaking of entrepreneurs making money from the work they do, if you guys like what you're seeing here, what you've seen here, please feel free to donate to support the show / me via PayPal at quintersectional@gmail.com. So thanks, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.